Let's look at the 11 suggestions that actually kind of starts with. Number one, don't be a weenie.
Don't be.
But thinking about when you're asking, you absolutely need to know your case. Make sure that volunteers know the case upside and down. You know, if it's a building, where's it going to go? People ask questions like that. You know, what's the plan for? Where's it going to go? How many people can it hold, or whatever? So even things like that need to be discussed with the volunteers. Now, this is very important. If a volunteer is asked a question from a prospect and they do not know the answer, do not wing it. Just say, I don't really know the answer to that, but I will find out and get back to you. But you must absolutely find out and get back to them. But train your volunteers not to. It's okay not to know something. You know, don't let them give answers out there and then try to figure out how to take it back.
Staff too.
Staff too. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Make your own pledge first. If you're going to ask anybody for money as a volunteer, you better not go out that door and ask until you've made a pledge. And again, it depends on the person, the amount, you know, but to your capabilities.
The person you're asking for money has every right to ask, have you given? And boy, if you can't say, yes, I have given, that solicitation is going nowhere fast.
What if they ask you how much you
You know, okay. I like it where peers are asking peers. So if I'm asking for $25,000, I hope I want a volunteer who's also given $25,000 to say, you know, I gave a similar amount, and you know, but that's up to the volunteer if they feel comfortable in saying what they've given. They may just want to say, listen, all I can tell you is that I busted a gut to make my pledge, and I'm willing to do it just to make that sacrifice.
And I worked with a Catholic school that it seemed like so many of these upper level donors, the person to ask those people was this sweet little old nun that used to teach school there that had, you know, barely a penny to her name. But we knew if she asked, they were going to give. They loved her, they respected her. So that didn't matter in that situation, but typically it does.
I was going to say, as a pastor, going back to our old hat, if the pastor would not, or she not, turn in the pledge first, it's going to be very hard to get up in the pulpit to preach on tithing and giving.
Yeah.
But at the same time, staff, I've been in churches where staff will not, and they're members of the church, will not pledge, but they're on the gravy train. To me, that's a problem.
And you need to give, because I think people can then see it in your eyes. When you're approaching people for a gift, if you're out there and if you have given, you're just going to be more convincing in your presentation.
I like to say, you don't have to give till it hurts, but I want you to give until your mother would question your judgment.
What you been smoking? Eyeball to eyeball is the best way especially for the leadership, the major gift donors, and sometimes just out of respect for any donor. Kind of, again, it depends. It's why you have to know. You got to know your prospect. If you know, for example, that this lady you're going to give $500 loves whoever, go visit them. If you want to keep a relationship, because relationships, money's important, but relationships are very important. But as in most campaigns, you're going to look at eyeball to eyeball for these top gifts, and then obviously there could be a phone-a-thon, direct mail, whatever later on once you've gone public. But you want to get to as many people as you can face to face. And one thing I'll say about the face to face, that's not the end of it. Follow up. Typically, people are not going to say, yes, here's my pledge card. Sometimes they do, but usually what they say is, I'm going to think about your request. I'm going to give, but let me think about that amount, and I'll pray about it. I'll talk to my spouse about it, and I'll get back to you. And before you leave there, set a time to get back. Let me just give you a call next week, and then do it. Because if you don't follow up, then that didn't go very far.
Let me ask you something on the technical side of that. Paid employees usually have access to the constituent software management program. And we can create an internal diary process that reminds us to go see that prospect. When your volunteers are working on the campaign, do you just give them a paper calendar and say keep track of it, or is there some central spreadsheet or access you give
Yeah,
them access
sometimes
to?
we have a shared calendar source, sometimes we have something that we, like on a cloud thing, like, what is it, Dropbox or something, that there's certain documents that the volunteers can access, but they don't access everything. So I think that would be the best thing, is to have a shared cloud thing where volunteers can log in, they can get their assignments, they can post updates, so you're a person that's entering data, their contact contact reports, meaning, I called this person and this is what they said, I'm supposed to meet them next, whatever it is, everything's kind of live.
Is there a confidentiality agreement that you get your volunteers to
Yeah, I would. Yeah,
participate?
I definitely would. One thing that volunteers are usually pretty good at most of the times is the cultivating part, the cultivating, meeting for coffee, whatever. But if they never get to the ask, then that's going to be a problem too. So you have to ask. Staff too, yeah. If you get to the point where, okay, this person has been ready to ask, but yet they've not been asked yet, then you might want to reconsider, or consider reassigning that person for whatever reason. But they're going to have to. And here's the other thing: if that person has a relationship, it may be that person who's been cultivating, maybe a staff person or the campaign chair or board chair, somebody goes with that person and they actually do the ask itself, because that other person can tell the story. Oh, this is what's happening, because that's what they're good at. But they may not be able to get those words out of their mouth to ask for a gift. So that would be the other person's responsibility. So let them know that that's okay, because you just got to be done. It's got to be done. Ask for a specific amount. I think you should do that. There's times that you ask for a range, but and when I say ask them to consider this. It's not, if you can't give this, don't give. So follow it up with any amount. Rob did a great job yesterday, the little role play or whatever. Any amount you're able to give, we will appreciate. If you can give more than this, if you can get less than this, either way we'll completely
Now,
understand.
the donor search is going to allow you to formulate the proper ask amount.
Yes,
All right.
yes, but
That's the piece of the puzzle.
Piece of
There
the-
may be some more other information like giving history or
yeah.
anecdotal information.
And then after all these pieces of the puzzle are together and we have an ask amount, there still could be something we don't know.
Yeah.
He could have a gambling problem and he really, is in debt. Or we don't really know some things. So, so when we ask, it's just based on what information we have available. But this is important too. If you get a no when you ask, don't say, okay, thank you, and walk out the door.
No.
Why? Is it the timing? Is it the amount we asked you for? Is it the organization? Is there an issue somehow that we're not aware of? Is it the project? Are we asking you to support something that you don't think is necessary? What is it? Because that no doesn't have to be a final no. It can be a no, not now. Oh, my daughter's wedding's coming up, and but I could probably, if they want to sign a pledge card and they want to start their pledge January next year, that's okay. That's fine. We'll work with them.
Yeah.
So we train people to, when you get a no, unless it's just a hard get out of here no, whatever, then I would say thank you very much, go away. But follow up with questions of some sort. Can I ask you, is it the organization? Is there something about the projects, or is it the timing? Is it the amount we asked you for? Because that we could be very far off.
Are you going to insult someone by asking for too much?
It depends on the person. Some people are insulted when you ask too little.
Mhm. That's why calibrating the ask amount is so important, because you really don't want to insult people by
There's a sweet
throwing up
spot.
too much or
Yeah.
too little.
Calder's got a story about being asked too little.
Yes, he does. Yeah. Somebody called and asked him for too little, so he didn't give anything because he was a little insulted that they asked for so little. If you hit a little high, they're gonna, maybe give under it, but that's more than they'd give if you ask low. And if you ask for a range, typically they're gonna give in the bottom of the range. So, yeah. keep all that in mind too.
We are in the business to raise sites. There's a lot of gravity out there, you know, to lower people's sites. But, you know, I'd rather ask people a little high. I want it to be ballpark a little high and not out of the ballpark. But, you know, it's okay to ask high.
And if you get a feeling that you've asked high, then, you know, there's things you can say, like, you know, we're asking everyone to stretch, but, you know, maybe that's a little further stretch than you're comfortable with, which is fine. So there's a lot of ways to kind of keep that still in a good light. Asking the best prospects first, you know, we work inside out, top to bottom, but when volunteers are starting out, the sure yeses, that's a great way to get them started. Because they're gonna have they're gonna have confidence. You know, if they get no's at the beginning, they're gonna put their tail between their legs and go home. So I think that's important to ask those best prospects first. Be very aware of that you're listening, you know, more than you're speaking. And I don't think that just is an ask, it's in pretty much everything. That maybe is today, because we're talking a lot. And I spoke about this earlier, overcoming objectives carefully and positively. So if they say no, if they say not now, follow up with that and come to some resolution. It could be that, you know, and let me say this too, if you've asked for a certain dollar amount and they said, we'll think about it, we'll pray about it, we'll talk to our spouse, whatever it might be, it'd be great if they were together during the ask. But if you get that and you try to follow up and you're not getting anything, we've kind of discovered there's such a thing as a half-ass. Or a roundabout. You can go back to them and say, you know, we really want you to participate in this campaign. We really, you know you love us and we appreciate all you've done for us in the past. If what we ask is not, you know, could you possibly give, and then, you know, maybe suggest another number. If you get the feeling that it's the amount, they may tell you it's the amount, but, you know, there's ways to not get a no. You can change it, go back and forth a little bit, and like your free one.
I want to caution steering committee members just to say, if you bump into some pushback and resistance from your prospect, maybe out of a bad experience, let them know, please, we're not asking you to try to fix it. We're just asking you to listen. And in therapeutics term, we want our steering committee members to be a non-anxious presence, you know, and just hear it, and hopefully there will be, you know, a cathartic release, such that they can, such as, you know, when they blow all this and spew all this bad experience, you can say, listen, I understand, you know, that was a painful exchange, and, you know, I hear you, and I'm sorry that happened. And, you know, what I can do, if permission, if you want me to, I can take this back, because I think there are a lot of people who would be concerned about some of the very things that you've registered. But hopefully, this is what we're trying to get them to. Hopefully they'll realize that even despite this bad experience, that the goodness of all the good that the organization doing is going to outweigh that one-time bad experience. And so that's what we're hoping to move the disaffected prospect to.
I think especially in schools, there's, you know, parents get upset. Yes. Parents get, if they don't like the teacher, or they don't, and they kind of take it out on the whole person. So, you know, but you can't. Some things you just can't change. What are your thoughts on leaving a pledge card behind when you have a visit?
I don't think I've ever done that.
Yeah. I suggest you don't, but I've heard people give reasons why they should, but
Unfortunately, in the church, we do it all the time.
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and I guess I'm talking about these upper level
Yeah.
people, you know.
Yeah.
Well, it's a reason to call back and say, have you dealt with that pledge card yet?
Exactly, yeah.
Or it may be that, here's the thing, for the big asks, you want to give people time. And you tend to surrender control when you offer the pledge form. So it may be that you set a date where you can come back to discuss. And I know that that's by the book. But in this day and age, you can go online and give a gift, and, that's just likely to have a pledge form, so.
Yeah, down the line when you're doing just a general mailing, once it's public, you're gonna send out things, pledge card, that's different, but, communication with your staff, with your volunteers is important. I've known volunteers who get frustrated because something will change with, I don't know, whether it's the plans that where you're building the building or what, they don't know. So they're giving out information that's been updated and they're not aware of it. And make sure that those volunteers communicate back to the staff too, to make sure that they know updates on the people that they're assigned to. So they can, make sure they get it in the system. And the last one is, of course, to say thank you, as much as you can. Make those people, you want a repeat gift, you want a lifelong donor, and you want them to have left you millions when they die. So,
Amen.
yes, good death.
A good day.
Good death. Any other things that we should add to that top list? What's been your experience? What else do we need to have? It's 11. I think that's an odd number. Should we add some? Should we take off some? What do you think?
And the thank you can be numerous things.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Are asks better done over a meal, or this is a specific, we're not gonna cloud the issue here, we're here to talk about this?
Yeah.
I've had better success with food.
Really?
Yeah.
I think there's something powerful about breaking bread together.
Yeah.
When I first started with fundraising as a volunteer, we were trained, when we were trained to do the ask, it was 5 steps, so it was like small talk, which if there's 2 people on, everybody says small talk. There's, tell them why we're here, so it breaks the small talk up and it says, well, again, let me tell you why we're here, we're in this campaign and whatever. Tell them the story, this is what we're doing, this is what we're doing, and this is who it's going to impact. And then the ask, which, whoever's appropriately to do that, and then asking for permission to follow up. It doesn't always go that way. You walk in to want to do some small talk and they want to get down to business. So you get down to business,